Maseches Bava Kama Daf Peites Amud Aleph in the middle of the page. Peites Amud Aleph. That's our pet subject. Line starts with the word takinulei, which is more or less in the middle of the Amud of the narrow lines. Takinulei Rabbanon. Ki also Rav Pope. We're holding exactly in the words Ki also Rav Pope. When Rav Pope and Rav Huna came, we definitely have to recap on what we learned 2 days ago because it was a hiatus of 1 day. So what did we say? There is a takana. One of the rabbinical takanos is takanos usha. Takanos usha, there are many takanos in usha. One of these takanos says that a woman may not sell her nichesy miloog, which means as long as the husband is alive, and by the way, I have an answer to your question, Alan. As long as the husband is alive, and she says to someone, okay, I have nichesy miloog, my husband owns the peros. He's the one cashing in the rent. And I own the goof, which I brought into the marriage. I own the core of the asset. So what do we say? We say that normally, had it been another situation, a person owning the goof may be able to sell the assets. Kinyan peros, love kicking in a goof. A person who owns the peros, he owns the profits, he has rights over the profits, does not mean he can impede or stop the other one from selling. Only by a woman, they wanted to avoid eiva. They wanted to avoid animosity and resentment from the husband's side. And the husband would say, what? After your petira, I'm the one supposed to get the nichesy miloog, right? Which means the both peros and goof are mine. Now we want to do the other way? No. So they're going to start fighting and quarreling, and the mother-in-law will get involved. That's even worse. So then that's the worst. And therefore we say no. We say a woman may not sell her nichesy miloog. Let's sleeping in the chosim lie and leave things as they are. It's the konasusha. If you remember, how did the Bechlal come to the whole business? Aren't we in the middle of a choivel talking about Reuben punching Shimon in the face? How do we get to this whole business with the woman selling? What does one have to do with the other? Your answer is coming now. He also Rav Pope and Rav Huna brother of Yeshua Nibeirav. When Rav Pope and Rav Huna brother of Yeshua came from Yeshiva Amri, they said, Tanina la takonas usha. We learned takonas usha in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah alludes to takonas usha. Our Mishnah can only be explained if you understand takonas usha, that a woman may not sell her assets of nichesy miloog while married. How do you know? Look at our Mishnah. It says, ha'eved va'isha gi'oson ro. An eved and a woman, if they are always on the negative side, the pgia, them being hurt or hurting others is always bad. Why? A choivel behen chayiv. You're always in the losing side. If you smack a woman smacks you, a married one, that's not a good one to start with. A choivel behen chayiv. If you hit a woman, a married woman, you chayiv to pay her everything, right? Yeah, and also by Eved, you pay the master. A married woman, if she punched Reuven, let's call the guy Reuven because Reuven's going to stay with us for some time today. Mrs. Married woman, she punched Reuven in the nose and he's bleeding and his nose is gone. It's a very nice nose. It was a model. And now, that's worth $100,000. She owes him $100,000, but she's potu. Why is she potu? Because she says, I have no money. I'm a married woman. I'm a married woman in a lochos. I have no money of my own. So sorry. I'll buy you a cake. So, Lemaisa, it's assuming a married woman has no way to actually pay the debt. And we did say in the Mishnah, that you do have to remember, my friends, you have to remember what the Mishnah said. Let's say that lady who punched Reuben in the nose, from some odd reason, she also got divorced later. Once she gets divorced and she gets her ketubah, and then she can even start having her own money. She started her own business. She's free. So then, of course, Reuben's debt was not annulled. Reuben's debt was pending. It's on her head. Once she's divorced, she has to pay Reuben. Reuben is the one she punched in the nose. Yeah? Okay? So therefore, a woman, as long as she's married, she can't pay anything because she has no money. Only once she gets divorced or she is a widow, she's widowed, then she pays. The Gemara in attempt to prove takonas usha. Let's continue into usha. The isal kedatach leisel takonas usha. If you would have said that there is no such thing as takonas usha, what does it mean no takonas usha? That means yes, she can sell nichesy miloog and get the 7 nice letters cash now, right? If not for takonas usha, Rabbi Rish Lakish, what do we say? A woman would have been able to sell the nichesy miloog. What are the chances she'll get nichesy miloog? I would say 70%. Okay, she has a very nice apartment in Ramat Tesvov, worth 3 million, yeah, which may or may not come to her hands eventually. Nichesy miloog now, which will be fully hers later. I would pay for that 2 million. Sell your apartment, lady, now. On the cheshbon, maybe later it will come to fruition. Get 2 million now and pay the guy that you punched his nose. Why don't we say that? Look at the Gemara. The Gemara says it better than me. If you would have said there is no takonas usha, tizbin nichesy miloog, let the dear lady sell her nichesy miloog, her apartment to who? To Shimon. But Titan lay, she should get from Shimon 2 million now into her bank account. But Titan lay and give out of the 2 million, well, you punch the nose of Reuben. In other words, why are you saying that the married woman is such a hapless human being that has no money? Well, apparently she has money. Elamai must be. If we don't offer that solution, must be there's takonas usha, right? In other words, since she has no nichesy miloog, she has no nichesy miloog to sell now. She's not able to sell the nichesy miloog. In other words, the reason why she cannot pay Reuven the punched in the nose guy is because she has no option of selling nichesy miloog, right? And by the way, I made a mistake. She's not even selling a chance. She's selling the nechosim now. He's now going to be the owner of the goof, and Shimon, the buyer. And later on, he'll also be able to reap the benefit. But we're suggesting she should actually sell it now. Elamai, you see, she cannot sell now because you see that the married woman, her hands are tied, she has no money. Why not? Why doesn't she have money? Must be because of takonas usha. So here we proved from the Mishnah that really takonas usha is really there. We prove it from the Mishnah. Okay? Yeah, Frank. All the British people are upset with me. It's going to be a very interesting show. Weiter. Answers the Gemara. Velitaimich, line starts with Vitit and Lay. Velitaimich, according to you, what do you want from my life when you talk about takonas usha? Even without takonas usha, nehi nami de isla takonas usha, even if there was takonas usha, veloy matzim ezabna legamrei, that was my mistake before. Before we wanted to suggest that she should sell the actual goof, the actual apartment, which now is hers, and now she sells it, even if you say that there is takonas usha, and therefore she's unable to sell the property right now of the goof, still tizbil and nichesy miloog b'toves hano. Even if you say that the nichesy miloog are not hers now, what's the takonas usha? Take off your hands the nichesy miloog, lady, and don't sell them. But tovas hano, of course she can. Meaning, if my husband dies before me, says the lady, right? Or I get divorced, of course, automatically the nichesy miloog, the marriage terminated, the nichesy miloog, which were always really mine, they'll be completely mine. That's what I meant before when we said the percentage. Yeah. In other words, I have an apartment in Ramah, Vov, Shtaim, wherever, and it's worth 3 million. Right now, my hands are completely off. My hands are tied because of the takonas usha. But still, why does the lady tell the guy, Reuven with the punched nose, bleeding nose in Beis Din? She tells him, "There's nothing I can do about it. Why not? Even with takonas usha, leave takonas usha alone. The tovas hano, of course, you can sell. Why? Tovas hano means the lottery ticket. The chances that after the termination of the marriage, it will go back to your hands. That's l'kula alma. Then she'll be the complete sole exclusive owner of everything. So of course you can sell it to Shimon now. Don't get 4 million, get 3 million, 2 million, whatever. On the off chance, not such an off chance, and the good chance, you'll get it eventually. So anyhow, it's questionable, as Jeffrey's saying, why should the married woman, Bechlal, be off the hook? Ella answers the Gemara, what I told you when we read the Mishnah, by the way, must be the lace law. Very, very easy, Ukimta. Not all women are so rich. We're talking about women, the lace law. She has no nichesy miloog. Finished. The woman has no nichesy miloog. The woman has no nichesy miloog. We're talking here in the Mishnah, a woman that has no nichesy miloog. Achinami the lace law. The male here, when it comes to yes or no takonas usha, leave Takana Susha alone. He did not prove anything. We have to make an ukimta, which is, by the way, not such a shvach ukimta. Not every woman that gets married has an apartment and has assets. Women back then were not big business women like today. So we're talking here about a woman that does not have nichesy miloog, therefore she doesn't pay. So now, Jeffrey and everybody else, we basically made a huge exception to the rule of the Mishnah. A married woman that has no nichesy miloog, that woman, if she punched his nose, she's potter as long as she's married. I would add, and I'm a little bit confident here actually, not only nichesy miloog, women can own money during the marriage. Otherwise, as we saw 2 days ago, for example, if she sold b'toiva sano, something else, she sold something b'toiva sano, yeah, let's say she has nichesy miloog and she sold them already years ago before she punched his nose. The money of toiva sano goes exclusively only to her. So women can have that. I'll give you a third example and a fourth example. Let's say a lady has a very nice friend, a nice father, and the father sees that the husband doesn't support her so nicely and there are issues. Let's say, chas shalom, the father, whoever can say to the woman, I'm giving you money, making a condition your husband has no ownership over the money. So she has a nice daddy. He lives in BH. He lives in Beverly Hills. BH, Baruch Hashem, Beverly Hills. Absolutely halachic. Yeah, no, it's not a feminist invention. It's in the Gemara. BH, she lives in BH in Beverly Hills. So he wires her money to the account and she lives in Eslas Toire. And he can wire to her account, to an all personal account, $1 million, and he writes in the reference, and that's allowed. Fourth example, today, a woman that works can tell her husband, you don't support me, I don't support you. I have my own money, you have your own money. So all these women that have money, the Mishnah did not talk about them. And if that lady was a self-supporting woman, a woman that has her own money somehow, and she feels too good about herself, she's a free girl, yeah? So she punched his nose, and now she says, I can't pay. Of course you can pay. That Mishnah didn't talk about these ladies. The Mishnah only spoke about a lady, a woman who's married and happens, which is a classical case, that has no money of her own. So far, so good. Mimela Takana Susha, now wrong, there is Takana Susha. We can't prove it from the Mishnah because the Mishnah spoke about a lady that has no nichesy miloog. Takana Susha has to do nichesy miloog, nothing to do with the price of cheese. Okay? Yes? Yeah. Okay. So, weiter. Frag the Gemara now another question. Yeah. Frag the Gemara, one kind of money every woman has. Every Jewish woman in the world, what? Very good. Sure. A note to your wife. A note to your wife. She has a ketubah also, a note to your wife. Frag the Gemara, v'taz bin ketubah b'toiva sano v'titanle. Wait a second. You have Reuben with a punched nose waiting to be paid, to be compensated. Every woman's supposed to have ketubah. That's halacha. You're not allowed not to have ketubah, as we'll see soon. And what? Let her sell her ketubah. What do you mean sell the ketubah? Of course, it's an off chance, what I like to call the lottery ticket. Yeah, the lady should go to Shimon, a buyer, and say, Shimon, I need cash now to pay Reuben, whose nose I punched. And what would he pay her? Let's say her ketubah is 200 zuz. She got married as a basula. I would pay for the potential of getting the ketubah eventually when she'll receive, if and when she receives the ketubah, which would be divorce or being a widow. So for 200, I would pay 100. I would pay 120, whatever. So get 120 from selling the ketubah now. Yeah, the chances of ketubah, the toiva sano, and pay Reuven. Why are you saying that she's potter for paying Reuven? And everyone has ketubah. Even the poorest woman, yeah, and a poor man, he's supposed to give her ketubah. And says the Gemara, Homani Rabbi Meir. Our Mishnah does not follow that advice. You know why? Because we follow Rabbi Meir. Doma, what did Rabbi Meir say? Also, as I'm sure we all know, if a couple lose their ketubah, that's bad enough. And next time before she goes to mikveh, I'm sorry, that's the reality. They should better find it or write a new one. Why? A man is not allowed to be with his wife even 1 hour, even one time, without ketubah. Yeah. In other words, or a person that has relations with his wife and there's no ketubah there somewhere in the cupboard in their house. So that's called bi'ilas znus. What's bi'ilas znus? Znus is not prostitution, not only. Znus means like people living together with no commitment. Living with no commitment is actually humiliating the wife. Why? Or the woman? Because in this case, he has what he wants. He has his fun, and he can kick her out any second. He can kick her out the door if he doesn't like her. It's a very lackadaisical, very fly by night kind of thing. Only when there's a ketubah, don't touch your wife unless you know that in case you divorce her, you have to pay a lot of money. It's security for the wife to know that she's not being chas v'shalom his toy. If you want to get rid of me, you got to pay a lot of money. So because the woman's always supposed to have a ketubah in the cupboard, and that's supposed to be her ketubah, mimela, what do we say? A woman is not allowed to sell her ketubah. The ketubah should remain hers. Okay? In fact, the Gemara, what you're saying doesn't make sense. Something here doesn't work right. Why? The time my. Why is it that a husband should not be with his wife even one time without ketubah? As I just told you a second ago, she should not be too easy or too degraded in his eyes to chase her away, to drive her away. You want to get rid of your wife? Last night you had a lot of fun. Now she didn't cook your favorite breakfast, made your favorite, I don't know, chicken soup. So now you're going to kick her out? It's going to cost you a lot of money. Think twice. Wait a second. In our case, that's not going to be a problem. Of course, she'd be able to sell her ketubah in order to pay who? To pay Reuven with a bleeding nose. Why? He's not going to divorce her more quickly. Why not? If he's going to divorce her, what's going to happen? You tell me, people, who's going to come like this asking for the ketubah? Shimon, the buyer. So you're telling me a woman should not sell her ketubah to Shimon, the buyer, because the husband will divorce her too quickly. Shtuyot. Why? Who cares? The husband is going to hurt him in the pocket just the same. If her ketubah is 200,000, let's say, so okay, instead of paying it to Shprin Sabela, who doesn't do the cooking right, he'll have to pay it the same way to another aggressive man called Shimon, right? As the Gemara says, Osu Hanach Dezabni will come. They would come. Who? They. Who's they? Shimon and his lawyer and his son Rabbani and his friends and his wife. They'll come. Gavul Samine. They'll take her ketubah from him. So Mimela, right? So the question is, it's still a very good solution. Mrs. Bruiser, Mrs. Puncher, Mrs. Violent, you hit Reuben in the nose. Don't play the just because I'm a woman. Yeah. So no, you're a woman. That's all very nice. You're a woman. Yeah, very nice. Good. But Lamaisa, sell your ketubah to Shimon now. Get cash now from Shimon the buyer for your ketubah, for potential ketubah. Pay cash to Reuven with a bleeding nose. Your husband, don't tell me your husband, but my husband is going to divorce me. No, the husband won't divorce you more slightly. No, more quickly. The same 200,000 or 2 million is to pay you. He'd have to pay Shimon. So that's a beautiful solution. Answers the Gemara, Ella, there must be another reason why we don't suggest the idea of her selling her ketubah to pay the damaged party. Ella, Baruch Hashem, what's the new reason? Toivasano, mili ninhu. She's not selling something real. In other words, she's not selling something that he has in his hands now, what I like to call it, the lottery ticket. In other words, she's selling a toivasano, maybe good chances, but she's selling a chance. The guy who paid, I don't know, 100,000 knows she may never get her ketubah. Maybe her husband, maybe she'll die before her husband. That also happens. If she dies first, then you lost the ticket. Yeah, you ever bought lottery ticket? I guess you never did. Yeah, but many of us do. I maybe once, twice in my life. When you do the thing in the lottery station, you don't know for sure you'll get the 50 million. Maybe yes, maybe no. So because what she's selling him now is not something very concrete, so what? Says the Gemara something very interesting. Continue the first wide line. Umili loy mishtabdi. What does that mean? Mili, which means words, concepts, not something hard, not a hard copy, not something concrete. Those airy-fairy ideas of the chances of getting a ketubah is not something that becomes meshubad, becomes connected and mortgaged to, says Rashi, one word, lenizak. Rashi, the one before the end, lenizak, which means when a person, man, woman, or whoever, or UFO, when he punches someone's nose or punches someone's car, or my wife and I drove yesterday, we saw a car near an area, a car towed full of bullets, full of bullet holes. like from a scene from a scary thing, like okay, we know where we are. We didn't go into the village, don't worry. So now, let's say someone shot someone's car or shot someone's stomach or shot someone. The second that the mazik did the nezek, the shibud created to the nizak. There's debt created to the nizak, right? The damaged party, shibud means my nichosim, my table, my chair, my money, my cash, my shoes, my socks become automatically mishubad to him. And once Beis Din decides how much and what and if and where, I'll have to pay with my money or my socks and shoes and my computer. They become kilu magnetized to him. Merely those things that she sells to Shimon, which are chances and a lottery ticket, are not concrete enough to have the shibud power applying to them. Therefore, it's not meshubad to the nizo. Frag the Gemara, mapitom. Frag the Gemara, alam aloy. Why not? Why not? Excuse me, you're being double-faced here. Mili de mizdabli bedinarininu. The meister, you're calling it mili, you're calling it airy-fairy, you're calling it castles in the air. She gets good cash for that. If Lamaisa this ketubah, yeah, and he read the statistics with the actuary, and he knows what the chances are, Lamaisa, Mr. Shimon was a regular guy, not a shaita. He's willing to give it good cash, or credit card or transfer, right? So if those mili are concrete enough to be paid for, they should also be concrete enough to be meshubah to the nizak. Make up your mind. Either it's money or it's not money. With all due respect to women's rights, how much can you pay her double game, double face? If she can get money for that, and she jolly well would, as we see, jolly well, as you know this expression, jolly well, yeah? As we see in ketubahs and other places, you can sell it and make money, so you should jolly well pay it to the nizak, and it can be meshubad. Back to square one. Why is the married woman potur? Well, there's a guy here, Reuben, with a bleeding nose, and what? If he has no money, no money, sell your ketubah. Your husband will not be more or less in love with you. Nothing to do with the husband relationship. Sell your ketubah now. Get money now. The shibud is strong enough because it's called concrete enough, and give it to Reuven now. Ella, but the Mishnah doesn't say that. Why? Ella, second word, lan. Ella mishum de Shmuel. Here comes a big bomb over here, which, by the way, is a Gemara in other places. Shmuel says, "Domer Shmuel, a moicher shtar chov lechaveroi." A person who sold a shtar chov to his friend. People do it all the time. Let's say there is a check. Somebody gave me a check. Checks are slowly disappearing from this world, as we know. But yeah, a friend gave you a check, which is a bit similar to shtar chov, but you don't have enough, and he's like, playing games with you. So now you don't have the time or money or guts or energy to deal, with the check giver, because you tried to cash it and there's issues, whatever, or you came to him with a shtar and he's like, maybe tomorrow, maybe yes, maybe no, and he went to Uman meanwhile. So then, I'll sell it to someone. I have, let's say, a check for 100,000. I'll sell you. Yeah, you have more time and guts and, based in connections better than me. And I will sell you the shtar. So in other words, somebody owes me money. I'll sell you the 100,000 check for how much? For 80,000, for a certain percentage. For, I don't know, 70, 80,000. I don't know how much, whatever. And you deal with him. And you now go and collect it from that refusnik, from the, by the way, it doesn't have to refusnik, because not portray the case, yeah? It can be any shtar. I'm saying, yeah? Listen carefully. The guy did? The guy, meaning me in the story. Let's say someone gave me a check and I sell it to you. I then called the other guy and I made a document with him, with the guy that owes me money. And I said, your shtar is mochuloch. I'm a nice guy. Your shtar is all, how do you say mochul? Erased, forgiven, wavered. So surprisingly, says Shmuel, mochul. The mechila works. Wow. Even though I sold the check to a different person, because I spoke to my son on the phone this morning, my son is a Talmud Chacham, unlike me, and he told me there's a Rabbeinu Yoino in Bava Basra that explains that even if I sold the debt to you, the shibud guf, not the shibud of the money, the shibud of the person is still mine and will always be mine. Since the shibud guf is connected to me and I'm the one who's, so to speak, really owed the money, I have the right to go behind his back and give and sort of moichel the debt, and now the buyer will stay with egg on his face. I know it's a very hard concept to understand. I know that it sounds very unfair, and to be honest with you, I've seen this Gemara a few times. I never fully grasped it. I have to be honest with you now. Yeah, burying myself, and I'm saying I don't really understand why. I saw many explanations. I'll repeat again. Shmuel says a concept which is hard for us little people to understand. Shmuel says as follows. The story is like this. Let's say I am owed money by someone, okay? I don't of course to deal with this $100,000 check which he owes me. So I tell you have more, maybe you have more, whatever, gusto, you have more energy, and say, you know what, I'm selling you the check for 80,000. Give me 80,000 now. I need it now, and I would need the cash now. And you take the 100,000 and try your luck to collect from him, let's call him Reuven, from the Baal Choiv. Then I want to be nice to Reuven, and I'm playing games. So I don't know why I do it. It sounds unfair. I realize that. And I go to Reuven and I tell Reuven, you know, you still owe me the money because Rabbeinu Yonah says the Shibud Guf is still on me on the original Malveh, and I'm Moichel the Choiv. The star is Kilu. Now, the star which I sold you is not effective anymore. And therefore, and I can do that. I can do that. So people who buy stars and now you would go to the Baal Choiv is going to laugh in your face and say, the Choiv is already forgiven, forgotten, how do you say, wavered, whatever you want to call it. What? Wavered. Oh, sometimes I use the right English word. Okay. You can ask why. I realize that. I don't want to tell you some shtuyot. Even here we see the Gemara is very reticent about it. Lamaisa, but yeah. Very good. Nachon. I'm saying it's not a nice thing to do. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Nachon. Oh, so when people, now it's the ever practical, very good one. Because enochinami, if you buy from someone a check, so I would pay very little, or maybe I would make him sign that he would never be moichel it. Enochinami, when you buy stuff, you have to check your Shulchan Aruch first. When you buy a check, or when you buy a dog, when you buy a check, enochinami, make your due diligence, and you should either pay very little or not do the deal, or somehow make sure that it would never be moichel. Maybe get him to write a promise with based in Edim and Dayanim that it will never do mechila. Enochinami. But buying a star in halacha is a risky business. We call it in Torah heniach ma'asav l'keren etzvi, putting your money on the horn of the deer. That's what we call in Hebrew to risk your money. Put your money at risk, yeah, because the deer can run away. Heniach ma'asav l'keren etzvi is always mentioned in the Gemara. Yeah, that's what it's called. Heniach. I want to hear you more. Okay. Thank you. That's what I'm about to say. Thank you. I'll be with you now. Even a yoirish can be moichel, which means, let's say the father was the one owed money. The father sold this check to someone. The father died. The father was owed the money and sold the shtar is 6 feet under. His son can be moichel. His son is now in Liyuvim, can be moichel. Wait a second, Frekt, Ellen, what does that have to do with this? Of course. A woman, listen to this. A lady, a married woman, you know what she can do? She can sell the ketubah. We're asking a question. Why is Mrs. Puncher, Mrs. Tyson, why doesn't she actually sell her ketubah, right? Sell the ketubah, get the money now and pay the Reuven with the bleeding nose. You know why? Because we're scared she'll be moichel the husband the ketubah. We're scared she'll be moichel the ketubah. In other words, the ketubah is her right. Don't make me into a toy. Yeah, you live with me. I want to have the ketubah. It's a question if woman can be moichel or not, by the way. It's a question of ketubahs. I'm not getting there now. Let's assume now that a woman can be moichel the ketubah. I love my husband. He'll divorce me quickly. I trust him not to. So that's a big problem. You know why? Because we're not playing fair. Reuven with a bleeding nose is going to get his cash now. Now Shimon is anticipating that one day the husband will die. She'll get the ketubah. Meanwhile, the woman tomorrow will go to with her husband to a coffee shop, and she'll tell him, or in front of Beis Din better, and will tell him, I'm moichel the ketubah. So then Shimon, who paid good money, will remain with egg on his face. That's why I told you, you see, Chazal are not in love with this concept. In other words, Chazal are not going to encourage such a thing of her maybe be moichel the choiv. So we're not trusting the woman to sell the ketubah and give the money to Reuven. Reuven is very happy. He got the compensation for his beautiful nose, $100,000. But Shimon, the buyer of the ketubah, may remain with a rug pulled under his feet, from under his feet. So that's why we don't encourage it. That's the connection. Thank you, Alan. Amri, we're still trying. Says the Gemara, listen, Zbuni Zabin, V'titanle, let her sell the ketubah and give the money to poor Reuven, who's a victim of her violence. And in case she'll be moichel the husband, she'll be moichel. In other words, we should take care of Reuven. He's a misken. He's the one she owed money. Maybe she'll be moichel to the husband, maybe not. She'll make a sale, and we encourage her to sell the ketubah, and Shimon is now the owner of the ketubah. If she'll be moichel the husband, maybe yes, maybe no. So at least do something right. Give it to Reuven the money, and Shimon may or may not lose. It's his issue if he bought such a risky thing. Answers the Gemara, no. The Gemara now says the same thing, but more intensified. Amri, they said, Kol gabe bal vadai. It took me a few minutes to understand the answer. One word is the difference between this and the previous answer. Vadai. What does vadai mean? For sure. Vadai mochlolei. Now questions should be mochel the husband. You know why? Usually it's me. When I sell a shtar, let's say I sell my shtar of 3,000 shekels, the guy owes me, I sell it to Tzvi, let's say, yeah? And if I'll be moichel the choiv to him, are you still going to come to my shiur and think I'm a nice guy? No. That's it. I don't want to ruin my relationship with people. So usually we assume that decent people will not do that trick of moichel the choiv. Here she doesn't care. Why? She punched the guy's nose. She was forced to sell a ketubah. She's not interested. She punched the guy's nose. She's against him in Beis Din. She's on the other side. Because, says Rashi, al korcho himucharto, the very last Rashi, she's selling the ketubah against her will, and she probably wants to maintain good relationship with her husband. She'll say, okay, it's 100% sure, 99% sure, that lady whom you forced to sell a ketubah, she'll be resentful, Eva. Oh, we care about her, Eva. And she'll say, no, I'm going to be moichel, my ketubah, which I was forced to sell by Beis Din, and I will be moichel it to my dear husband, who's so nice, or not so nice, but I love him more than the other people. And what? She'll be for sure moichel the ketubah. Continues the Gemara, B'afsedinela, who's bina beyadayim, to mamish, we Beis Din, for us to be partners, to cooperate in such a corrupt thing of being mafsid, poor Shimon, for sure beyadayim, with our own bare hands, because for sure that's a loss for him. Love Sedinhu, which means if Shimon wants to go to stupid, risky business himself, fine. But we Beis Din to encourage such a very iffy, very gray area, very shoddy kind of business of what? Her selling the ketubah, giving Reuven the money. Oh, it all looks nice. That's a going work. Everything has to look nice, Oh, Reuven, with the punched nose, got his money. Now the newspapers and the internet can say Reuven got his money. What about Shimon? Shimon, who gave the money to Prince Avela, the hitter, he's for sure going to lose his money because she was forced to sell it, and she's okay with her husband to a certain level. Of course, she'll be moichel the ketubah, and Shimon, the buyer of the ketubah, will for sure remain flat on his face. And therefore, if they want to do it, fine. But we Beis Din are not going to encourage it. We're not going to be part of it. Lo afsedin hu. There's, by the way, another version that says lo afsedin nan. We don't cause such a loss to poor Shimon. We don't even have a hand in such a funny kind of business. So Mimela, the married woman, we're talking about why doesn't a married woman pay money if she punched someone's nose? Answer number one, she has no assets. No nichesy miloog and no rich father and BH that transfer millions every month. Good. Secondly, a ketubah. Why should she sell her own ketubah? Everyone has a ketubah, with or without Beverly. She has a ketubah. Even Beverly has a ketubah. And what is that? Answers the Gemara, no. She cannot sell her ketubah because that's not fair. We're concerned she'll be moichel the ketubah to her husband, and then the buyer of the ketubah will remain empty-handed. If it happens, it happens. but Beis Din does not encourage those sales. Those sales are, we're not going to encourage that just to appease Reuven on the expense of poor Shimon. Reg the Gemara. Okay, so that is, we have three people here. We have four people in Beis Din. There's the woman, Reuven, and Shimon, who may want to buy the assets, but Shimon, don't do that. And we have the husband. Reg the Gemara. Let's take out one player out of the chessboard. Let's take one piece off the board. Let's say like this. Let us suggest the following case. The last line, let us say, the guy who was punched Reuven, let her sell him her ketubah with toivasano. Not that he's going to give her money. She owes, let's say that the numbers are just the same. But the Gemara will discuss later other sums. Let's say how much does she owe the guy? She punched his beautiful prize-winning nose, and she owes him $100,000. Okay, it was about to sign a contract with a magazine. Okay, $100,000 she owes him. Hey, you know what? Her toivasano ketubah, her ketubah is $150,000. Great, sell him. Who? Reuven, the punched nose guy. Your $100,000. Yeah, meaning that after you get, if you're supposed to get your ketubah, if you outlive your husband in any way, divorce or thing, a widow, then Reuven will get the ketubah. The same guy. Why not? We are concerned about Shimon, who's a third party, who's going to remain what's called in nice English, freier. Reuven is not an issue. Soon the Gemara is going to explain. Reuven will always be winning. Why? Explains the Gemara. It's the same guy. Sell your ketubah, not sell for money. Sell. He paid already with his nose. The 100,000 you owe him, pay him back by giving him your 100,000 ketubah. Why? Maybe she'll be mochel the ketubah for the husband, and then Reuven with a punched nose won't get anything. I think that's what you guys wanted best. I'm reading your minds. Maybe no. Maybe Reuven with a punched nose will lose. Why? Because maybe the morning after she'll tell her husband, darling, dear, no, honey is not there yet. Darling, I am mochel the ketubah. And then what? And then Reuven is losing. Says the Gemara, loy kamafsid. It's not called that he's losing. Why not? Because now too she's not giving him anything concrete. I know that's hard to understand. Here Tosfos explains it. The case of Reuven and Shimon gave real money to Shprincabela the violent, and eventually he'll get zero. A second later, she'll go home laughing all the way with the husband. He gave money. The case of if there's only Reuven, the punched guy, the one with the punched nose, what's going to be? If she'll want to be mochel the ketubah, he'll get the money. If she will be mochel the ketubah, he will not get compensation, but that's not called a loss. It's, of course, some kind of loss, but he didn't actually take out money out of his pocket. And therefore, the loss is not as great. Or at least, I thought afterwards, after I read Tosfos, I thought to myself, it's still better than nothing. What did the Mishnah say? Reuven who the punched nose gets, you know how much according to the Mishnah? Zero. Well, at least give him the chance of getting the ketubah, right? And then maybe he'll get 100,000. Good chance of Shibubachal husband. Okay, so then he'll get zero. But at least attempt to maybe give him 100,000, maybe 2, 3, 4%. And then he's not losing anything. He's not being compensated. He's not like losing because he spent money. So why don't you say that? Answers the Gemara, no, you're right. But soif at the end of the day, it's not because of his loss. I'm again stressing one magic word called vadai. She will for sure do mechila to her husband. So what? Reuven, the punched guy, is not losing. True. That ruchi beidina bichdi lo matrichinan. Everybody knows the word matriach. We don't want to stop bring hassle to Beis Din to play games, to make a show, make a charade that doesn't lead you anywhere. You're just playing a stupid show to look as if you're being just towards Reuven, and you're not. Because if she's 100% to be mochel the ketubah, who does she love more? In most cases, the husband more than the punched guy who's forcing her in Beis Din. So for sure, the woman will give up the ketubah. So for sure, Reuven will not get his money. So you're making a whole court case, a whole story, and at the end of the day, it's just a game. It's just a Hollywood show. Chalila, lahavdil. So we're not matriach Beis Din to do shtuyot. End of story. The Bekitzer, again, I'm repeating, a woman will not pay with her own ketubah. Why? Because we are very, very, very concerned. She'll be moichel the ketubah. Therefore, the ketubah, how would I say, is not a currency. It's not something payable because she'll be moichel. The whole thing is just one big joke. Correct the Gemara. So far, so good. Now it gets very hot. What happens if she punched her own husband? Ooh. She actually didn't like the way he spoke to her, or maybe he forgot her birthday. So she punched his nose. Elo de Tanya says the Brisa, Becheni shechovlo bebayla. She did chabolo to her husband. She was chovlo her husband. Lo hifsida ksuba. So she does not lose her ksuba, which means that life goes on. She owes him money. She owes him money. What can you do? She cannot pay you. Why? Because she can't be mafsid her ksuba. What will happen at the end of the marriage, which will probably end at some point soon? Then she gets her ksuba. She gets her ksuba, and she doesn't lose anything. Frag the Gemara, why? Amai, why? Sell your own ksuba to your own husband. Right? In other words, yeah, the ha-chabala, right? In the same chabala. In other words, let's say that it's the same number. Let's say it's the same number. She owes her husband had a very, very nice prize-winning nose. $100,000 worth nose. She punched him. Her ksubas toivas hanoah is also 100,000. No. So sell it to your husband. What does it mean selling the ksuba to the husband? That in case they get divorced or he dies, he doesn't have to give her. She basically erases the choiv ksuba, and that is good compensation that she punched his $100,000 nose. That sounds very good. If she'll be moichel the ksuba to the baal, lekap seda, there's no loss because it's the same thing. In this case, to yes have the ksuba or not have the ksuba is just the same, right? What do you think? Maybe she'll be moichel the ksuba. It's the same thing, just in a different phrasing and differently. Either your husband doesn't have to pay you because you're paying for his nice nose, or he doesn't have to pay you because you gave in, you wavered. Same thing. So that's a win-win situation. So make the poor husband with the bleeding nose not pay the ksuba, and everything works very well. And says the Gemara, no. Oh, now we stress even more, must be our Mishnah that does not suggest that the husband should be forgiven, wavered the ksuba. It's Abimeri, the Omar, as we said before. Also, a man should not stay not even 1 minute, 1 night with his wife without ksuba, and therefore, if she'll be moichel the ksuba to the husband, then that's very bad because he'll divorce her. Yeah, we're scared he'll divorce her. Yeah, that's mimela. We don't say, we say, no, let him pay her the ksuba. He should definitely pay her ksuba. Don't waiver the ksuba. Don't waiver the rights. He has a punched nose. I feel very bad for his punched nose, but women's rights. Women's rights is to have ksuba. Don't treat her like a zoino. And therefore, for sure, if they get divorced, he'll both ways have to pay her the ksuba. Frag the Gemara, a genius question. They're all genius, but here I'm more stunned. The time am I. Let's remember again, why is it that the couple should always have this? I forgot to tell you, as I'm sure some of you know, it's a big machloikis. Some people say that if your ksuba is in Beis Din, that's what Beis Din keeps a copy, that if a couple loses the ksuba, they run away from Ukraine, chas v'shalom, I don't know what happens now. So then what? So then there's a copy in Beis Din instead of the one at home. They still say you should write a new one. Okay? Now, wait a second. What's the whole business of you have to have the ksuba? The time am I? Right? We say, hey, mister, don't be too, loose on the ksuba. Don't be like a loose cannon with your ksuba. But over here, he has every interest in the world to divorce her quickly. Not because you punched his nose and he doesn't like her. You know why? Begarish law. He would of course divorce her. You know why? The Gabi Lebechav, let me know. Remember what I told you all the time? Once divorced, she's gonna get her ksuba. Oh, she got her ksuba. What's gonna happen the day later? Now it's time to cash in. The second she went to Beis Din, he'll pay the ksuba very nicely at 100,000. A day later, he'll send her a big red letter from Beis Din, pay me the 100,000. Because as a gerusha is supposed to pay a debt to her husband or anybody else. So what did you gain? Right? Right? So now the Gemara repeats the same thing. The next two words we don't read. There's a gears and the Gemara doesn't read them. Kigoin. We have to now skip to the word kigoin because in my gears of the Gemara doesn't appear. Answers the Gemara, you're right. But kigoin nofish ksuba. So we're talking here about a case that the ksuba is more than the punched nose. Oh, that's not worth it for him. His nose wasn't so pretty. His nose was only worth 10,000 and the ksuba 100,000. Then he's not stupid. Says the Gemara, the Mishumahu Purta, because of that little bit of 10,000, he wants to be, vindictive, get back the 10,000, but he's going to lose 90,000. Because of that Purta, for a small amount, he's not going to lose so much, which means it's a big ukimta over here, which means, if it's the same amount of money of what, 100 for 100, we say what? Of course, she should compensate him, pay him back. Because anyways, he's going to divorce her to get it back. So if both are the same amount, the nezek and the ksuba, then what do we say? The husband gets compensated and paid 100,000. But in case the ksuba is more than the punching, then we say no. Then we say no, he's not going to get it. He's not going to get it. Maybe after they get divorced, he'll get the small amount of the nezek, but would still have to pay a lot of money for the ksuba. So he's still discouraged from divorcing her because the ksuba amount exceeds a lot the amount of the nezek. So still he's scared of divorcing her, and in that case, you don't touch the ksuba money. Frag the Gemara, one more last question. What did we say up until now? By the way, we said Rabbi Meir. Why are we a little bit hesitant on selling a ksuba to begin with or giving in ksuba? Because a woman without a ksuba is also to stay with her husband. Don't cohabit with your husband when you don't have the ksuba. Now, I'll ask you a question. How much is a ksuba? Midoraisa, an almana gets 100, and a basula gets 200. That lady, a rich Sephardi family, they write millions under the kuppah. The Sefer Ksuba, very good. So now, let me ask you a question. Let's say her ksuba is more than the ksuba d'oraisa, which is usually the case. And they already made this takana by the earlier achronim that you have to write more than the basic. So let's say her ksuba is more than ksuba d'oraisa, then still I'm claiming that the husband should get something. Nukma ksuba d'oraisa. Let her stay with the ksuba d'oraisa of 200 to appease Rabbi Meir that says that a woman should not be like a zoina. You should compensate her if you divorce her. So there's a limit, there is a minimum amount, 200. The idach, the rest, million, sell him for the Kabbalah, which means the rest, you should be meichel him. She should meichel him the rest for the Kabbalah. In other words, he should be compensated, the poor husband with the bleeding nose. He wanted to stay without ksuba? Okay, the basic will stay, 200 she'll get. Midoraisa, that's enough. It's okay for them to keep living together, husband and wife. And all the rest, you should jolly well pay him by giving in. Kigoin answers the Gemara. The obvious answer: the law in the fisha ksuba ksuba d'oraisa. We're talking here that the ksuba is not more than the ksuba d'oraisa. The havi cheble arba zuzi. Let's say the chabala was only 4 zuzim. The mishum arba zuzi, because the 4 zuzim lo mafsid 25, which means what's 4 and 25? A regular minimum ksuba is what is 100 zuz, which is 25 zuz. Yeah, that's under the zuzi. 25 sloim. 25 sloim. Yeah. 25 sloim. 25 sloim is what she's owed. Let's say the punching in the nose is only 4. Then, as we said before, it's not worth it. She has a minimum ksuba d'oraisa, which he has to give her. He has to give her 100. She punched my nose, I want my money back. No stupid husband would say, I'll divorce her in order to get 4, and I'll have to pay another 96, right? That's stupid. And therefore, we say there's no chashash, right? But if the numbers are different, if her ksuba is much more than the regular ksuba d'oraisa, then the rest of the ksuba, she should, yes, pay her husband by being moichelit in order to compensate him for his broken nose. I'll just read the next line as a question, and the answer will hopefully Mirza Hashem come tomorrow. El Hodetanya. One more last question and answer on this subject. El Hodetanya. Comes the new question on the same brisa, which is in the Tosefta. Kishem shalotim korvi tachtov. Just like a woman is not supposed to sell the ksuba to other people as long as she's under him, as long as she's with her husband, she can't sell the ksuba to other people. First of all, why? Maybe because of a woman cannot be without a ketubah, even if there's no such chashash, because the other people will cash the money. Still, we say maybe she'll give in maybe she'll moichel the choiv, so that's a lie to the customers. Kach, so too, lo tafsid b'tachtov. So too, she should not lose her ketubah when she's under him, which means she should not waver it and give in and be moichel the husband either. That's not always true. That's not true. We just said some cases that lady which punched her husband's nose and broke his arm, she should, yes, lose the ketubah, parts of the ketubah. How is that? We just said that if her ketubah is 1,000,000 and Midoraisa is only 200, the 200 remains hers, and that will be a good deterrent for him to divorce her as the minimum. But still, all the rest, she's moichel. All the rest, be moichel the husband because his nose is worth $1,000,000. $1,000,000 that you're supposed to give in. So why did the Brisa say she never ever is moichel, never loses any one dime from her ketubah? It's not true. Answers the Gemara, and I will not explain it now. We'll explain it tomorrow. It's Hashem. Omarove. Sefer also the ketubas bonin dichrin. The Sefer talks about a completely different section in the ketubah called ketubas bonin dichrin, the ketubah of the male children of the woman, and we're going to explain that tomorrow. It's Hashem. So tomorrow we're starting the Shiur with the line bonin dichrin. We're going to explain what bonin dichrin are and how that affects the financial relationship of the couple. And I thank you very much. A groise shkoich. Thank you, Givaldig. You guys are amazing. Thank you.